Hi there. I'm an Egyptian living in the United States, and this presentation is just to show what's going on in Egypt, because a lot of people have been asking me. Um, so basically, to start with, normally, when you talk about Egypt, you'll talk about, temples, pyramids, maybe New Cairo, Red Sea, stuff like that. But today, definitely things are different. Um, we're talking now about freedom, about change, about justice. The Chinese government has banned the word Egypt from the internet, and that speaks a lot. Why all the media attention? Well, because of the basically our border with Israel and being the U.S. strongest ally in the region, the largest Arab nation, most influential. Also because of the Suez Canal, which controls a lot of oil, Gulf oil, and uh, will affect prices definitely if something happens. The motives of this movement are many. There are some political motives like lack of democracy, no fair elections. The president's been there for 30 years. No one, when you go vote, you know that you're going to get the same president anyway, so you're not voting. There's corruption on all levels: economic, educational, social. Unemployment is incredibly high. Inflation is unbelievable. The demands of the whole movement was to have President Mubarak leave the country and resign as president, as well as all his government. Um, this would be followed by a temporary government, and that does not involve any of the National Democratic Party, followed by transparent elections. Now, as well as the determination of a lot of unjust laws in the country. Now, some facts and info you need to know about the people doing this movement. They are the Egyptian youth. Internet activists started all this on Facebook and other social media. It is not, and I repeat, it is not related to Muslim Brotherhood like the media is trying to propagate to stop the movement. Muslim Brotherhood has nothing to do with this. The movement has asked Muslim Brotherhood to share early on, and they said, no, you can just go ahead and do this. So, of course, Al-Qaeda is not in Egypt, so that's not even a choice. Now, the Muslims and Christians are doing this in Egypt. Religion is not a factor at all. We don't care who's the next president. It's not a political thing. We want to get rid of the corrupt government and be free to choose our own president. Now, the protesters have started all this in a totally peaceful fashion, and the riot police started doing a lot of aggressive action towards the protesters, and we'll talk a little more later about all this. Now, this is Tahrir Square in Egypt. It is one of the largest in Cairo, and it was the nucleus of most events. And thousands of people have been there since the 25th of January. Tear gas bombs have been and fire trucks blasting water at the protesters since day one. Now the people in the protests are from all different social classes. There are men, there are women, there are old folks, young guys, and children. There are Muslims, there are Christians, but I mean the riot police doesn't really care. They beat up everyone, and a lot of injuries have been reported in the first few days of the protests. Now police, to show that what's going on is not really peaceful protesting, started burning tires, burning cars, burning tanks, and just to make it seem as if the protesters are being aggressive, even though it's been covered by all media that this is not the protest. Now, my sister has been protesting with all the protesters back home in Egypt, and she's a 27-year-old, very successful radiation oncologist. She's not poor. She doesn't need to do this because she wants more money, or she wants to stop the corruption. She and a lot of her friends are there. She's not a religious fanatic. She's very Western. I mean, I know that everyone is there because my sister is there, those people. And a lot of their friends and a lot of my friends that I know have no relation to any political party. They're out there in the streets fighting for our rights. Um, Now, Mubarak has been getting about around $2 billion or a little less than that every year of financial aid. He uses about 75% of that for military equipment. And it's funny that that same military equipment, he's been getting tear gas and throwing it now at his people. And the people in the streets, when they look at the canisters, it says "Made in USA." So, I mean, how would they think about US and the US support for Mubarak? I mean, people have to think about this. To completely isolate Egypt on the Day of Rage, which was the 28th of January, um, Egypt's government totally blocked all internet service across the country. This is incredible. This is just a graph showing how the internet dropped on the 27th and the 28th at 12 a.m. There was no cell phones, so that no one could contact anyone and tell them anything. He wanted to get rid of those thousands, even millions of protesters without the world watching him. I mean, how stupid. Anyway, this is on the Day of Rage. People in this picture are praying on the bridge. Now, when Americans or non-Egyptians or non-Muslims see this picture, they say, "Oh my God, these are fanatics, Islamists." No, Egyptians pray. All moderate Muslims, or most of them actually, pray. They don't have to be consistent in prayer, but they do pray, and it has nothing to do with fanaticism. It's just that it's part of the rituals of their lives, part of their traditions. Even if you're not religious, you do pray. So when you see these pictures, please don't think these are Islamists or fanatics. These are regular, hardworking people, and they're trying to make a change for the country. Now, the army intervened, and when the Egyptian population saw the army coming in Tahrir Square, they were really happy and they welcomed them because they thought, that's it, we're winning. And the army didn't do anything. They just sat there, and it's like they're trying to just stop the protesters. They weren't violent against protesters, but they didn't even help. And so the government did something really weird. They took away all police from the country, and chaos and robbery incidents started. Not only that, criminals were set free to terrorize people. Thousands and thousands of criminals were let free to have, to vandalize people and steal places and kill people. It was chaos, and the army wasn't doing anything to protect the people at that point. Neighborhood watch groups from each neighborhood had its youth standing in the streets protecting the different suburbs of Cairo and other major cities. Now, on the 2nd of February, a huge massacre happened in Tahrir Square. Thousands of protesters were protesting, and then pro-Mubarak protesters coming on camelbacks and horsebacks. I mean, I know it's unbelievable, with sticks and knives, killing and hitting people in all ways brutally. It was unbelievable to watch this on TV, and at least 1,500 people were injured, severe injuries, and many have died. Now, the government's reaction was totally unsatisfactory. Mubarak just assigned a new deputy president and switched roles between cabinet members and nothing else, really, and said that he won't re-elect himself. Yeah, right. Now, the current status, there's a curfew from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Banks are closed, grocery stores are closed, pharmacies are closed. People can't find their basic needs. And pro-Mubarak protests turned Cairo into a war zone and are very aggressive with the protesters. And all this is on all TVs and internets, and people are watching. Now, what we need from you is to understand why we're demonstrating, help others understand it, share all this, support us, lobby your governments, your media, your human organizations. And a final word I'd like to say to all those of you who live in free nations, help us now in our journey towards freedom. Thank you.